Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the Frontline Changes Report. Over the past 24 hours, a lot of things has happened over in both in the Kursk offensive as well as an intel drop, particularly over at the Kupiansk Svatove front. And there is so we go through all the change just a quick go through of what you are going to see soon. Lyubimovka, Semimovka, Kakashkoye, Profshnoye, Makovka, Voschansk, Bishane, Berestove, Novoselivsky, Stemakivka, Martinovka. Oh, this Martinovka should be upstairs. Oh, so should be upstairs. Yeah. And then Andrievka, Druzhba, Ivanivka, Krasnohorivka, and Konstantinivka. So there's a lot of frontline change. We go into the Kursk front first. So very Kursk. Over at the western flank, the Ukrainian forces has expanded their control because the Russians, despite I say that this was probably the firm front line, it didn't seem to be the case. The Russians did not come close. There might be a possibility that the Russians are not ready to engage that closely. The Russian lines is over at Kerenovo. So this entire area here, the Ukrainians have taken all the forest region around this area, north of Lyubimovka, and they have expanded their control all the way to the edge of Elgovka, which is where the fighting was actually reported. And so this is the frontline change over in this Lyubimovka region, basically the western front, the western flank. In the northern flank, there is some interesting situation. So previously we have this fighting reported over at Anastasievka. I think put together probably easier to pronounce. Anastasievka. So then the Ukrainian forces actually seemingly went westward, and they were geolocated within the forest where they attracted an Iskander strike. So it seems like maybe the Ukrainian forces actually have some kind of presence around here. This is actually firm control, because they are actually there. The highway, I don't think the Ukrainians are there anymore, and there is fighting reported over at Kauchuk, and according to some rumors, based on the reporting, Ukrainian forces was actually reported to be south of Kuravli, but this is not confirmed, and they speculated that after the Iskander strike, the Ukrainian forces actually ran south from the strike area. So this is probably what's happening. So this is not exactly frontline thing, but the Ukrainians are there. It's somewhere around there. The Kuravli one is not firmly confirmed. This is just some reporting. So we just continue to monitor the situation. They are very close to where the Ukrainians lines probably is at. So this is probably where they are going to. They are probably trying to return to the Ukrainian lines. So let's hope that there's no friendly fire, because you are in enemy territory. You will be very paranoid. So let's see how this progress. And so over at this eastern flank, with this I would say the Sudja flank. Okay, let's call this the eastern flank. So in the eastern flank, the Russian forces have actually recaptured Martinovka. So this is reported by Ryba. They say that the Russian forces have captured Martinovka after a hit-on battle with the Ukrainian forces. So this means that the Russian forces have retaken positions all the way around here. This is exactly how the Russians have mapped it, and they have retaken this position. And our fighting was reported over at Cherkaskoye, Pereshnoye, and the direct geolocation of Ukrainian forces right at this position, at this village. And basically at this village, this is where the front line is, because the Ukrainian tank was actually opening fire around here, which means that the Ukrainian forces actually have a position around here. There is no indication whether they have captured Pravda. Fighting was actually reported over at Ivashkovsky. So we do not know whether this is actually under Ukrainian control or not. But the Russians are pushing, with the Russians actually holding position around here. So the front line around at this sector of the Kursk front is becoming more and more clear. So we are now seeing the solidifying of the front line, and we are now seeing this happening. So I think more than half of the front line is now very firm right now. So over in the south of Suja, the Ukrainian forces is geolocated over at Makhanovka. And this actually means that the Ukrainian forces actually entered into this area here from probably across the river, because the in the northern part, this area here, the Russians allegedly have forces. So the Ukrainians probably attack from the rear position, and try to go bypass this very complicated situation around on the eastern part of Sudzha. So this is the current situation over at this area, the Sudzha sector of the Kursk front. And so that's about it, I guess, from the Kursk front. So this is all the situation right now, with Ukrainian forces expanding their control over the western part. There's some presence reported over in the north, and then the Russians have pushed in, while there's the Ukrainians actually try to attack around it, and the Ukrainians attacking over Sudzha region. So this is what we are seeing right now. Battles are still ongoing, and the Kursk offensive is definitely still ongoing. But it seems like the Ukrainian forces are not able to push further. So anyway, we move on further away from the Kursk front. We go all the way to the Kharkiv front. Over at the Kharkiv front, there is some updates. Based on Russian mapping, the Ukrainian forces have captured this area here of Voschansk. And this salient here, we have already speculated for a long time that this is actually most likely under Ukrainian control. So we have now validation based on Russian mapping, confirming the Ukrainians' presence around this eastern part of Voschansk. So nothing but particularly very surprising in terms of this thing. We move all the way to the Pischani region. So you can see there's a lot of frontline updates along this entire area here, with Russian forces expanding in Pischani, in the south of Berestove, in the Stemerkivka and Andriivka region. So a lot of update, big intel drop around here, and the mapping is by all these updates is from Deep State UA, from the Ukrainian side. So these are Ukrainian information. Over at the north of Pischani, Russian forces have captured all this forest region here just off Terbaivka, and as well as the south of that position, and also in the northern part of Pischani. So the Russian forces has been busy. And based on this mapping, based on Ukrainian mapping, they actually map Ukrainian forces right within this area here as firm control, which means that we are now witnessing a possible pincer and encirclement of Ukrainian forces over in the northern part of Pischani. So we shall see how these develop over at this area here. This is Ukrainian mapping, by the way. This is not Russian saying that they are encircling Ukrainian forces. It's the Ukrainian mapping that is saying that the Ukrainians are getting encircled. So we shall see how these develop. Ukrainians have some heavy entrenchment allegedly around here. So let's see whether the Russians can do the encirclement. South of this position, over at Berestove, we finally have some updates around this area here. According to Ukrainian mapping, there's sudden big change around here. Russian forces have expanded their control on the eastern part of Berestove, capturing all the grounds around here. And they have secured Novoselivsky, which means that they have recaptured Novoselivsky. And in fact, they even continue to expand south along the tree lines and the valley, and basically put another Ukrainian force on the verge of a potential encirclement over in the southwest of Novoselivsky. So this is particularly interesting because, again, like I said, this is Ukrainian mapping. So this update is particularly obscene looking, if you are a bit creative. So if I zoom down a bit, you can see that the Russians also have expanded their control over this area here. So with this dangling thing over here, Ukrainian forces is now facing a difficult position. There's a chance that they may be encircled in this fashion, in this pincer movement. So and this is actually not that difficult for the Russians to actually do, because there's not much trees and tree lines around here. The Russians can possibly do this in one fell swoop. So this is yet another potential encirclement that is actually developing over at this sector of the front line. And further south, there is also updates over at Stemerkivka, with Russian forces expanding their control at on the eastern part of Stemerkivka as they get closer and closer. And with this northern area here, they could potentially attack in 3 different sectors against Stemakivka. So the situation is getting a bit serious around here. South of Stemakivka, over at Andrievka, we have updates again. The Russians are back, and this time around, the Russian forces taken these 2-3 lines. These 2-3 lines around in the northeastern part of Andrievka, and this means that the Russians are back at threatening the Andrievka again, and we shall see how this develop. So yet another frontline change around here. So a lot of frontline changes all across this entire area, just this stretch here. So I think the Ukrainians have received some intel drop from their sources and covering all these grounds. Or maybe they felt like there's enough victories over the Kursk front that they now feel comfortable to drop all these negative news. That's also a possibility, because they are withholding information for sure, as they cannot reveal everything that's happening over in Ukraine. So the next frontline change is over at Druzhba. Over at the New York front, at the Torak sector, the Russian forces have been geolocated in a totally new area here, as they gain control in the eastern part of Druzhba, and this forced the Ukrainians yet into another potential encirclement, where they could be trapped through a pincer movement by the Russians. So a lot of pincer developing, so a lot of crabs to eat. So after Druzhba, we go all the way to the Adievka front. Over at Ivanivka, Ivanivka region, Ukrainian mapping. So this Russians map, previously we have this geolocation, and based on Ukrainian mapping, they have drawn that the Russians have taken even more grounds over Ivanivka, and basically we are on the verge of capture. Basically, there's only left a few buildings left, basically 2-3 lines, and the Russians would have captured Ivanivka. So Ivanivka is now on the verge of collapse. Like I mentioned, it's going to be like 24 to 48 hours. So these 24 hours, probably another 24 hours, we will see the full collapse of Ivanivka. So after Ivanivka, the next frontline change is over at Krasnohorivka, over at the Donetsk front. And Krasnohorivka, there is some updates. So some clarification of the front line around the eastern edge of the Krasnohorivka by the Ukrainian mapping. But what is important is actually this area here. At this very edge, the Russians actually have starting to push down the Svatove street, and they are now pushing westward from the main city. So this is actually the significant news over at Krasnohorivka, as the Russian forces is starting to push, and they're going down this road. So let's see whether this is going to be a continuation of a major offensive, or this is just some clarification of the front line. So after Krasnohorivka, we have one last frontline change. Is over at Konstantinivka. So the Battle of Konstantinivka continues with Russian forces geolocated in 2 different locations, and the Russian forces basically have taken the entire eastern part of Konstantinivka, or actually eastern quarter of the, or eastern quarter, you see. So there is a central, so eastern first quarter, second quarter, and then you have the western first quarter, second quarter. So it's a quarter of Konstantinivka has now fallen to the Russian forces, and the Russians are just attacking from one single vector. They are just pushing westward. So this is significant, and the Ukrainian forces, I wonder if they actually have enough troops to hold back the Russians, because the Russians are just pushing in one single frontal push in this way, like this. So yeah, a bit of unusualness, because the Russians tend to attack from more than one vector. So let's see how this develops. So these are all the frontline changes over just the past 24 hours. So thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. I will likely do a Kursk offensive update. Then I will do a sit rep, but I'm not sure when I would post it or where I should post it. So because airtime problem, I don't know how to manage, because sit rep must be on the War channel. So let's see how this goes. So thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, and do check out the DPA open mic. We have a fantastic episode, we have a Ukrainian living in Ukraine, dispelling a lot of misconception, verifying a lot of rumors, telling us a lot of things. Do check it out. It's a long session, but epic session. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update.